Hello, everybody. Let's see this yet here. Okay, looks like there might be some eggshell left in there. Get a little closer. Yeah, you can see half an egg in there.
Oh, yeah. But that's probably not easy for camera viewers to see. Just
no, because there's a lot of that vegetation.
Yeah, so this will be.
Now, see, there's that clamshell, and that's what I was wondering if that might have broken the first one. See that? See that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And that, you know, if they had set that on that, and the egg was underneath it, I don't know. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm the Looncam operator. This is John Coolie from LPC.
Hi.
I'm going to check the chat. Chat, let us know if you can hear us good, because I can't put it on sound here, or we get a lot of feedback. Let me see here. I
got this.
So what are you doing now? You're putting on a.
Yeah, latex gloves, or. And I've got a Ziploc bag. And yeah, first step is to collect the eggshells. Get rid of the mussels.
Yeah. I'm going to take a picture of that, John, before you...
Of the mussel? Yeah, sure.
I think that's an interesting... Okay.
I mean, that's what the cameras do, right? They, like, give us all this up close, like, possibility for like, individual random things that could be the problem. Oh yeah, look, you're right.
Some embryo in there left, huh?
Yeah, and it is, it's developed, you know, definitely like a fertile egg. I don't know, or let me just see if that's part of it or not. I can't think that is. Yeah, there's a little bit of development there. Just.
Can you tell if it's like, I mean, they never really consistently incubated here. They were giving it 6 hours a night.
Yeah.
6 to 8 hours a night off.
Yeah. So this looks like it's in. Oh, but it's actually you can see some of the like anatomy of the chick, like a bill and an eye and the spine, and so that's like we tend to rank the development on like a simple 1 to 5 scale, and that's further up, like probably a 3 or something on that development scale, yeah, compared to like no development or just like the very beginnings.
But it would have normally hatched like next week, maybe, you know, in another 5 or 6 days. Is that
okay? So you're saying we're about a week out. We're 3 weeks in.
Yeah. Maybe a little less, you know, a little more than 3 weeks.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating, because yeah, I can see like ribs and, you know, so I'm not, and just like how smushed it is, it's a little hard to say whether it was on track.
Yeah.
But definitely fertile and developing, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is what an egg should look like at this stage. Yeah. But there's no, I'm not seeing a lot of like, you know, downy feathers. That would be, I don't know when they form in the development. Seem pretty, at least at like some early stage of being a feather. They must be present early on, but yeah, there's another mussel shell.
That's 3 of them, huh?
Yeah.
That's not a...
What if it was as simple as that, you know, just some...
Can you tell from the egg shell there if it was thinner than normal?
And are you seeing a fragment in the nest still?
Can you put a fragment of egg in there?
Let's see what I got. So we have an egg in an eggshell that was collected on Squam Lake in the 1930s.
You're right.
Yeah, right. Pre-DDT.
Yeah.
And it's you even just looking at that one eggshell. You know, it's not like a proper sample, but of many. But that N of 1, you can feel and see that it's a thick eggshell compared to, you know, a really thin one. And there's all, you know, probably every year there's some that are thin, but yeah, that looks thin to me.
It looks very thin.
Yeah, we can measure that, you know, and see, but it looks thin to me. Yeah. Not seeing much else in here, Bill, as far as egg stuff. So good nest, though, huh?
Somebody wants that tree for a Christmas tree. That thing grew up the top.
Right? Pretty brave plant. So where's the root of this plant?
I don't know.
Down in the sun, in the wrap.
Probably in the somewhere. We grew a lot of vegetation on the front porch too. You really couldn't see too much inside.
But I don't know how zoomed in you are, but this is what we've ended up with.
Maybe I can do that. Give me a minute.
Yeah, we can. Well, and
it's so sunny here, I can barely.
Yeah.
I think just hold it up above the nest here.
Sure, and you know, so the eggshell. There's a big chunk of the eggshell, and the rest of the sort of debris and the little bit of developing embryo in there. Shoot.
All right. Well, listen. Let's do a few questions here, if you have the time. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you know about the variable incubation? You know, we normally expect it to be, what, an hour or two at the most off the nest, but we've seen short periods of longer that still have been successful.
Yeah, and we were talking about that as we wrote out here. You know, on average, you might see the loons off the nest, and the camera footage may prove me wrong in this, but sort of the textbook is that, you know, 5 or 10% of the time the nest might be unattended, empty, just as they both are off.
Right.
And on the bigger lakes, that tends to be more, a little higher percentage, 10, 15%. But for the individual nest, there can be, I think the species account says that there have been instances where they found a nest with eggs in it that had dew on them and were chilled overnight.
Overnight, yeah.
And then that hatched after that.
Okay.
So that's sort of the outside outlier of like what still might hatch.
Right.
And you know, this has probably been covered in the chat or in what we've described on the website, but my understanding is that the eggs are more sensitive as the incubation progresses, as they get closer to hatching. Yeah. They're less tolerant of that long gap.
Well, which is interesting because the 6 to 8 hours has been pretty consistent for the first 3 weeks, and over the last couple days, they've been much more diligent about staying on the egg.
Okay, yeah, and they tend as it advances to be more and more invested in actually getting it to hatch. Right. They're less likely to flush off the nest. So that would all fit. I think there's the let me just write this in. I'm just taking the GPS location, even though this is a well documented location on our map, but yeah, there's the one-off times when they might be off the nest for 5 hours, and then there's the average, like, cumulative deficit that if they continued, like, at this nest to be off repeatedly for a few hours here and a few hours there, you wonder if that cumulative lack of attendance would be more important than just the one-off time.
Right.
Yeah.
So about the Territorial, we've got a new female this year, and last year we didn't have any nesting at all because there were 5 loons on the lake, and they never figured out who was going to own the nest. So this year it's the same male from 2 years ago, new female. And I think there was a sighting of the old female early in the season, but there, the last 3 weeks, the loon watcher on the lake has said really just seen the two, no fights or anything like that. So maybe just talk a little bit about the transfer of ownership, and does it go back to the old owner? What happens there?
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you, it's not a done deal. We have another lake, Pleasant Lake, New London, where the banded female was there and nesting successfully for over a decade, was evicted in like a really ferocious confrontation a couple years ago. The new female took over, and then the following year, the old female was back and nested successfully. And this year she was back and didn't nest successfully, and there was some speculation whether she was getting to the end of her reproductive lifespan.
Right. Did the female that took over that 1 year, did she have a success?
I think so, but I don't know if the chick survived because there was so much going on as far as the loons go. Yeah, so it's not a done deal. The banded female here may be back next year. But there's always, like, when there's a newcomer, there's always like a learning curve in terms of the pair and the nest and their experience. So it could be a young, inexperienced female that's now here, but even if she had already nested somewhere else, getting used to this site and the other loon, we tend to see like a slump in their nesting success in the first year of establishment.
Yeah, okay, so it's not unusual for what happened.
Yeah.
You're saying the Christmas tree's in your way, so we'll move a little bit forward here.
Oh, jeez. So, yeah, it's like endless speculation possible about what might happen or what's contributing to the outcome this year, right? But definitely whenever we have a new pair member, the chances of them successfully nesting goes down a little bit.
Yeah. Any chance that they would re-nest this year?
I think usually we expect 7 to 10 days or so between a failed nest and a new nest attempt. It can be a little shorter than that, but there's a little bit of downtime to just go through the process of nesting again. And the latest we've seen a nest start is like, mid-July, maybe July 15th, July 20th. So it's not inconceivable, but it's really unlikely that they would re-nest now. Yeah. And we wouldn't really want them to, because usually those nests don't succeed. And it's just a hotter time of year, especially this year, for them to put the effort out.
So the whole pesticide chemical thing comes up here. Has there been any, since the Squam Lake problem, has there been any other lakes where the shells have been thin, and pesticides have been found, and eggs have been squashed and so forth?
Right. In seeing both of these eggs get smushed and squashed, broken, and perhaps the egg shells being thinner, I was trying to remember how often we see that. I think it's definitely a very rare occurrence. It might be 1 in 500 or 1 in 1,000 eggs where we know we observe that to happen, and it may happen otherwise too, and we just find the nest afterwards and we don't have any way to infer that that's what actually happened.
Right.
So, but it's definitely not 1 in 100 nests, and so it's rare, and all the eggshells in New Hampshire on average were thinner when DDT was prevalent in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
If you measure an eggshell from those decades, it was thinner, and the eggs on lakes where there was a higher exposure for whatever reason tended to be thinner. So, and there's, as it turns out, I think there's indication that there's other contaminants besides DDT that can cause the eggshells to thin somewhat. But in loons, it was never enough to cause like acute, the eggs just failing and breaking like it did in osprey or peregrine falcons or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was still happening, just not catastrophically. And yeah, there's definitely other contaminants out there that might on average, cause an eggshell to be thinner, as far as from what I understand. But in an individual case like this, have you ever had like backyard chickens?
No.
I know, like in our little flock of 6 chickens, you were instructed to keep an eye on the nutrition of what the feed you were giving them, because it's not an uncommon problem for, like, your backyard chicken flock to start having the eggshells break if they're not getting all of what they need nutritionally. So that seems like the more commonplace issue.
Well, first year female maybe just didn't eat enough, but
it's hard to imagine a loon not knowing to catch fish, but if there was a stress on the wintering grounds or on migration that put the individual loon at a deficit, that would be like.
Well, there were some territorial issues before she took over too,
Yeah.
so there may have been some stress there.
Yeah, anything like that, or it could just be like some sort of physiological anomaly in the individual loon, right?
Yeah. How about the virus? Has there been any cases of that this year?
The avian influenza and this year the H5N1 highly pathogenic variety that we're worried about. We're being careful in how we handle loons or loon materials like loon eggs against that risk for us, and then we're worried about it in the loon population. There were loons on the coast of New England this spring that were found to be positive, but the initial round of samples we sent in from the breeding population this June were all negative, happily. And if a loon is back and breeding and nesting, hopefully, if it has had it, it's over it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would contribute to like eggshell formation or anything like that. Probably, I haven't heard anybody speculate about that.
And so you wouldn't be catching the unbanded female, right? Because now that she didn't have a chick, it's pretty difficult to do that.
Yeah, generally, there's no feasible way to capture and sample or band an adult loon that's just on its territory without chicks or nest.
Okay, let me just see. I have really terrible bandwidth out here. We need to really get a Wi-Fi hotspot out on this nest if we're going to do this anymore. We use the Ethernet cable to get the main signal back, but I don't have access to that. All right, any other questions? I think we're pretty much have handled what folks want to do. It's getting hot out here.
Yeah.
I'm not a loon, but isn't it nice how it's shaded in there? I think the loons really appreciate that over a open nest, right?
Yeah, and this has a couple layers of camo fabric, and the other thing we're putting on some nests is like a different kind of shade fabric that's even more thoroughly shading the nest on a hot day. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, listen, I'm going to check to see when the renewal for the data circuit is up. I got to cancel the circuit before that happens. And so, somebody asked if I'd leave it on tonight. I will leave it on tonight. We'll at least leave it on for 12 hours to make sure that you can go back and pull up the problem itself. Where the male, or I don't know if it's the male or female, took the some of the remains off the nest. See that, John? That was their fidget device, that little stick that came up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were using that as a fidget quite often, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe this is just my chance to give a shout out. It's strange to just talk to the camera without being able to actually see
let's
real.
pull you out of the Christmas tree.
Real
here.
people.
Pull that down. Just pull that down. If someone wants to save that, so yeah, there you go.
Do a little landscaping. Yeah, I mean, it's strange to talk to a camera without being able to see real people, but just a chance to give a shout out to the audience out there and to you for the close eye on this nest and how amazing it is to see all the idiosyncrasies, but also all of these events and behaviors that we care so much about in the individual instance, but that we're learning from in general as far as loon biology goes.
Right,
this is just amazing. So, it's a treat to get out here and see it.
And the chatters have been great. Somebody reported they thought the egg had been smushed at 4 o'clock this morning. It's like I wasn't watching it then. And so without the chatters and the timestamps, we really would still miss a lot. So it's really a big part of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So we still got Looncam 2. I would say Sunday is when we start egg watch, but Wednesday would be sort of the official 28 days. But we've seen eggs hatch 25 days this year, so we have to back that off a little bit. We did see an eagle land this morning and eyeing that nest, so we did have an eagle problem last year, and so maybe he's able to hear the little chicks peeping in there as well as the loon. I don't
They
know.
can do it. There's some fireworks, but they can coexist. And yeah, I would for the webcam viewers who are in New Hampshire, you should stop by the Loon Center for our Loon Fest on Saturday, or take part in our Loon Census on Saturday morning. Is it the 20th?
20th.
Yeah, at 8 a.m. on your home lake. And yeah, or stop by the Loon Center.
Go
We'll
to loon.org, and you can get the form or the information about doing the census. Everybody just sort of between 1 hour figures out if there's any loons out there that they can see, and then
yeah, it's our statewide snapshot, a good way to get started, and it really complements this season-long effort that we're making to monitor lakes, a number of times over the course of the season and get as best we can. It's not 24/7 cam footage, but to document what's going on. Yep. So.
All right, last check. Are the loons around? I don't see them. They were
We
they
heard
were around right
calling,
when John
yeah.
got here, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen them since. There was
Yeah.
just the one.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we'll leave the camera on the rest of the day, and we'll shut her down, and then see you on Looncam 2, and hopefully we'll get some chicks next week.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye, everybody.
This is my least common
Why did they
form of
invent it this way where you're going to row back?
Is this how the folks who row across the Atlantic or whatever do it? Are they going forward or back?
You probably have one of those bicycle mirrors on yours.